I have been so excited to film this video because I do one every single year on my favorite podcast of the year. I'm an absolute lover of podcasts. If I'm doing the dishes or I'm cooking or I'm just walking to the shops, I will put on a podcast. And so I've found and kind of loved so many podcasts this year, and I've discovered so many, and I've also really enjoyed ones that I've shared in the past. If you want to see the previous ones, I'll leave the links from down below. But in today's video, I'm going to be going through, I think I have 10 podcasts, a nice range of them as well. So let's get straight into it. The first one is The Diary of a CEO, and this is one I've recommended before, but I've continued to really enjoy it. I really enjoy the range of different people that he brings onto the podcast, Stephen Bartlett. I really enjoy sort of the range of topics that are discussed about everything from like good sleep to the menopause to anxiety, mental health, like just a range of different topics. There are some about like building businesses and like being happy. And I actually just saw one literally this morning. It's a short 12-minute segment about why coffee and how coffee can impact your sleep by one of my favorite authors who has written a book about how we sleep. So I really enjoy the topics that are spoken about, and I think that there's always something for everybody. The next podcast is called SheerLuxe, and SheerLuxe is a company, I guess, that I discovered this year on TikTok, maybe 6 months ago. And I first discovered them on TikTok because I love the fashion of the people that work there. And a lot of them are sort of my age, like early 30s, late 20s. And I just love sort of their style. It's very modest, very sort of clean, very, just easy to, like something you have in your wardrobe. Like you most likely will have a pair of jeans, like, a blazer, like a wide-legged pair of trousers. Like you'll have these things, and I just love how they put everything together. So I first found them there, and then I discovered that they have a podcast as well. And they're just a group of, like, there's 2 segments. I think there's like a Gen Z segment for the younger girls, and there's one for the 30 girls. So you've got like a nice kind of there's a very distinct difference in discussion I find between them, and I can relate a lot more to the older group in terms of the things that they talk about. But I really like sort of the element of just hearing a group of girls chat about like what they did in the weekend and like what they're doing next weekend and the restaurants they've been to and the things that they've been doing. And it's just a nice conversation, like a nice wholesome conversation where you probably will hear a recommendation that you'll bookmark on your phone. And staying on the theme of conversation, my next one is called The Oversharers, and these are 2 girls that are, I think they're Khalid and Hodor. And I met Hodor before at an event that I was invited to speak at about motherhood. And this was like 4 years ago, and I don't think I've seen her since, but yeah, COVID and everything happened. And they've started a podcast. I think they started this year, don't quote me on it, but I just started listening to it a few weeks ago, and I've really enjoyed the chats and the conversations. They do like different sections about just them discussing like, everyday things. And then they have like another aspect of it where they talk about like dilemmas and trying to overcome and help people with their issues. And yeah, like I said, I think I've really drawn myself towards more conversation this year, and just trying to reconnect to the human and social aspect of what being human is really about. And I've tried to tell myself that you don't always have to be learning something. Not everything you listen to or engage in must be a educational conversation. And so I'm just trying to mix up learning with just having a nice listen to something in the background. Okay, the next one, again, I think I've mentioned this last year, is Today Explained. And this is a really nice podcast that explains different aspects of everyday kind of life or the news or things that you might see in passing on Twitter, but not quite know what they mean. So for example, there's one yesterday, that says Shein wants to go public. So the Chinese company, Shein, they want to go public and, start to have their shares out there. So it's I've heard this before, and I actually saw an article on it last week, but I didn't know much about it. And so this is a nice way of, it's literally 27 minutes. It's a nice unbiased summary on the topic, which will just give you a bit of information, and it's not too heavy as well. The next one is a bit of a sciencey, health-related one. It's called Feel Better, Live More by a doctor called Dr. Chatterjee. And he's a doctor that actually you'll see that comes online quite a bit on different documentaries on BBC to do with health or to do with weight loss and things like that. You'll usually see him there. So he's a bit of a celebrity doctor, I guess. And he's got a podcast that's all about science and a range of different topics that are quite conversational. They're quite long podcasts, 2 hours. 2 hours. You've got some short bite-sized bits as well, but for the most part, they're very conversational. and they go into a lot of depth about a specific topic. And I find that you can just kind of dip in and out of these podcasts. So for example, there's one recent ones that says the truth about sugar, alcohol, caffeine, protein, and exercise with a neuroscientist. So it's just a nice way to learn about everyday topics from an actual doctor. Okay, so the next one is called CEO School, and this is someone that I follow. Her name's Samira, and I follow her on Instagram. I first found her from like her business entrepreneurship stuff, and she's very, very successful. Kudos to her. She's done very, very well, and she has a podcast where she talks all about what it's like to be a CEO and the different aspects of business. So for example, the last podcast is about your guide to a profitable business year. Essential shifts for explosive business and personal growth, unlocking the top 5 traits of successful CEOs. And they're no longer than, I mean, the longest one is like 25 minutes. You've got about an hour, a really long one. But like for the most part, they're quite short, they're bite-sized. If I'm just going somewhere very short and I just want to listen to something that will give me that entertainment, but I can also learn something for a short amount of time, then this is something that I listen to. Okay, so changing gears a little bit. So I've just really got into my Arabic learning again this year. So I've been doing it now for about a year and a half with a tutor every single week, 1 hour without fail. I've probably missed 1 week in the last year and a half. But I've been doing it for quite a few years by myself, just like self-learning. And one of the ways that I first started to learn back during my PhD is by listening to this podcast called ArabicPod. And they actually haven't posted in very long, but I've been re-listening to their podcast. I think they posted, the last one is in 2021, so it's been a little while now, but they're still very relevant because they're short and sweet videos. They're no longer than like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes, and they'll just go through one specific phrase. So where are you from? You're welcome. How to say please, how to say thank you, some grammar, the writing system, some sentence structure, the history, and they're just really easy, very quick podcasts that you can just listen to. They're very short and you can learn something. And like I said, this is one of the first places that I started to learn Arabic when I first started to learn it myself. The next one is called the Khalid Nassra Method, Learn Levantine Arabic on the Go. And this is a podcast that I discovered maybe 6 months ago when I was traveling, and I just wanted a podcast to listen to on the airplane. It was a 1 hour and a half journey. I wanted something to listen to where I could feel like I was picking up on some Arabic phrases. So this is a really good one. I actually really like it. I just wish that the accent wasn't Levantine. I wish it was something that I'm used to, so maybe like Saudi Arabic or something. But I really like how he gives really good examples. He mostly speaks in Arabic and then he goes into English a little bit as well. But for the most part, he's speaking in Arabic, speaking about how to conjugate male for men, for women, for more than 2, for plural, singular, etc. And he goes to a lot of depth. You can literally see that I've played all of them. They're quite short and sweet episodes as well, and I like to go back to them and take notes as well. So I really like this, like his method and his videos. The next one I've been really enjoying this year is called the Super Great Kids Stories podcast. And I love this podcast. It goes through loads of different kind of kids stories. And I just play this when I'm with the kids around the house. And I like it as our form of like entertainment where they can listen to a story whilst they're playing or whilst I'm doing something. They've got that in the background where they can actually just listen to it. And I think that's really important for picking up like listening skills and communication skills without actually seeing someone speak. The English used is British English, so I like that as well. And I like the different types of stories. So we listened to one recently actually they had a guest storyteller from Kenya, I think it was, and they were telling a story about a girl from Kenya and her culture and what she was eating and drinking, and I really liked how they brought that Kenyan aspect into the story. And I noticed that my kids, when I played things like that in the background, they quietened down quite a lot, and I can really see them focusing on the storytelling. So I really like this. There are so many other podcasts that are similar to this, and I find them really interesting as well to listen to. And it's not overbearing like kids' music or kids' kind of like fairy tales or songs. So I really like this. And the last podcast that I rediscovered this year, because I feel like I knew about this podcast a few years ago, but I rediscovered it this year. It's called Freshly Grounded by Faisal and Sam. And I actually rediscovered it because they did a video about, I found it on YouTube actually, a video about moving to Dubai, the costs for childcare, nursery, like housing, car, whatever. And they were speaking about the cost and how much things actually cost and like their obstacles. And they're really long podcasts. I think they're like 2 hours long, and I literally listen to all of it because that's something that we're interested in doing. And I like that there's a quite in-depth, real perspective given on this podcast. So it isn't just like sugarcoating it or speaking about it from a very like in a short, quick way like that you find on TikTok or on YouTube. This was a very in-depth discussion about the different areas that you might want to consider. And because there's 2 of them and they both live in Dubai, I think it's about like one saying, oh yeah, I pay this much, oh I pay this much, okay, this is why I pay this much, this is how you can do it better, I wouldn't do this, I would do this. And I really loved hearing that. And there's so many points that I was like messaging my husband saying, oh my God, this is what they said. And we learned so much from it. So yeah, I really recommend it if you're interested in moving to Dubai, or you just want to hear this perspective of someone that lives in the Middle East that has moved there from the UK. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed those podcasts that I shared with you for this year. And yeah, I've obviously listened to so many more, but these are the ones that I have repeatedly gone back to and that I have shared with other people as well. And if you want to let me know what you've enjoyed this year, like I said, I would love to hear it because I can add it to my collection. So please do share your recommendations down below for the one podcast that you enjoyed in 2023. And yes, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.